Mr. Biden arguing his predecessor's false claims about election fraud and failure to accept defeat led to the attack that day.
He can't accept he lost. He refused to accept the results of an election. And the will of the American people, his bruised ego, matters more to him than our democracy or our Constitution.
Slamming Mr. Trump's inaction as the riot was happening.
We didn't see a former president who had just rallied the mob to attack, sitting in a private dining room off the Oval Office in the White House, watching it all on television, doing nothing for hours.
And blasting those who have continued to push the so-called big lie that the election was stolen.
He's not just a former president, he's a defeated former president.
The vice president comparing January 6th to infamous attacks on the U.S. that killed thousands, including Pearl Harbor and 9/11.
Certain dates echo throughout history. December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001. And January 6th, 2020.
After the speeches, former President Trump dismissing the event as political theater, saying it was just a distraction for the fact Biden has completely and totally failed, and that Democrats want to own January 6th so they can stoke fears and divide America. Trump ally Lindsey Graham called for the rioters to be prosecuted, but also slammed Mr. Biden's speech as an effort to resurrect the failed presidency. Sharp partisan divides were on display today. Few Republicans participating. Only Congresswoman Liz Cheney and former Vice President Dick Cheney there for a moment of silence. Then a prayer vigil at dusk. Solemn ceremonies remembering a day that changed America.
And Kristen, we just learned new information about where Vice President Harris was on January 6th.
Lester, that's right. A White House official tells us the vice president was at the DNC headquarters when that pipe bomb, which we reported on at the time, was discovered. She was there until she was evacuated. Lester.
All right, Kristen, thank you. Perhaps no one had a clearer view of the stakes that day than House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who I spoke to today. This morning, President Biden was here in the Capitol, delivered a blistering takedown of his predecessor, and also offered a vigorous defense of democracy. Given the environment we're in right now, where there are people still trying to delegitimize the investigation, diminish the extent of what happened here, do you wish that speech had come sooner than today?
Well, it came today, and it's what our country needed right now. And I'm very proud of the president's speech. It was forceful, truthful, and a wake-up call to some in our country of how close we came to catastrophe for our democracy that day in a way that was unprecedented.
The way he went after Donald Trump, however, do you think that fuels the conversation among many Republicans that there's something political about the observances? Mitch McConnell today suggested that it's being used for political gain.
Well, that's for him to say. The fact is, there was an assault on our democracy, instigated by the president of the then president of the United States, an incitement of an insurrection on the Capitol, and that's just something that Mitch McConnell or anybody else cannot whitewash.
I want you to take me to that day, if you will. We all remember you being quickly escorted off the podium. I've heard you talk about it before. You didn't want to go.
No.
Do you think now, though, knowing what you know, do you think about what would have happened had you stayed?
Well, the security was very definite. And when they pulled me down from the podium, I said, don't worry about it. They said, no, you must go. You must go. And so you don't even have a conversation. You want to do your job, they have to do their job. The visuals of what was happening outside the Capitol, now inside the Capitol, it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart. It's as if somebody in the White House dropped a bomb on the Congress of the United States.
There were people in this Capitol that day who were viewing you as an enemy, to be captured, to be humiliated. One of them said, was looking for you to shoot her in her frigging brain.
Yeah.
They desecrated your office. They left your staffers, fearing for their lives. Have you found a way to put that in perspective, to reconcile it a year later?
Well, I've been one of their targets for a long time, and I have security to protect me. My concern was really for the other members and for the staff. They can destroy things in the speaker's office. That's wrong, but that can be repaired. But the trauma that they foisted on the idealistic people who come to the Capitol to work, the institutional staff, it had nothing to do with Democrats and Republicans, only the Congress, those who had to clean up behind these people with their defecation of words and poo on the floor of the Capitol while they recalled names that are totally unacceptable.
Speaker Pelosi taking me to the Capitol, showing me where her staff was hiding.
The rioters, they banged down one of the doors. The staff was in there under the table in the dark. They couldn't speak for like almost 3 hours.
And they're obviously hearing everything because it's taking place right here.
Where she would come together and all that stuff. And maybe they thought I was in there, I don't know.
Then we go inside her office.
Where you saw them sitting at the desk and taking the mail and all that was here. That's where that stud was sitting.
What did you think when you saw that picture?
Well, it was a manifestation of Donald Trump. Complete disrespect.
I asked her about the lasting impact. What has been lost that you fear can't be regained?
I think everything be regained. America is an optimistic country. The resilience of our democracy can withstand even the former president of the United States.
And I asked about the House committee investigating January 6th. It's composed of virtually all Democrats. Republicans pulling out after Pelosi rejected 2 of their selections. So she picked 2 Republicans, both fierce critics of former President Trump. Many Republicans will say that the process was not fair, that there were Republicans who were rejected as potential members of the committee.
They were not. Well, the Speaker has the right to make the appointments.
There are individuals that he wanted on that committee who
And he
were
said that
rejected.
most of them could come. 2 could not because they were suspect in terms of their involvement in January 6th. They can whine all they want, but they walked away from the opportunity to having their full complement of members on the committee. Now I ask all members to rise for a moment of silence.
You've been very vocal in the past about praying for your adversaries.
I always do, including as recently as this morning. I always pray for them that they will open their hearts to God's blessings to do what is right. But I say to the Republicans, take back your party. This is not who you are. You're the grand old party. It's done so much for America. Had great leadership for our country. This is a sad thing for the country that the Republican Party would have melted down to a cult.
In 60 seconds, the president's pandemic response and the changes some top advisors say he needs to make as doctors and nurses struggle and pediatric hospitalizations rise.
We all need help, just different kinds. Maybe a little, maybe you need a lot. At H&R Block, get the expert tax help you need, online and in person. Help is here.
6 health experts who initially advised President Biden on America's COVID response say it is time to change direction, as many hospitals are again at capacity. With that, here's Tom Costello.
The message from leading pandemic experts writing in the Journal of the American Medical Association. COVID-19 is here to stay, and the country needs to adapt to a new normal since vaccines and infections don't seem to offer lifelong immunity. That means treating COVID like other respiratory viruses.
We have to reorient our goal so that we get it to a manageable state and we can continue with our normal life while COVID's around, just like we do with flu.
The call for a new strategy comes as confirmed cases are at an all-time high, driven by Omicron. Hospitals nationwide swamped with patients, most unvaccinated, say their frontline doctors and nurses are under tremendous stress.
We're just beyond exhausted, depleted, and we're asking for your grace and understanding while in the hospital.
Oxygen's not enough, the ventilator's not enough, and they require ECMO, and they're laying in bed for months, for weeks to months.
It's just been a lot of uncertainty, and I'm tired.
Meanwhile, pediatric COVID hospitalizations are at an all-time high, most involving unvaccinated children. For children under 5, a croup-like cough is often a sign of Omicron infection. In the ICU at Colorado Children's Hospital, a third of the cases are COVID admissions.
Kids, like adults, are catching it just as quickly and bringing huge numbers of children to our emergency departments.
Children's National Hospital here in Washington also reporting record COVID admissions, most kids under the age of 5 not yet vaccine eligible. And doctors are urging parents, vaccinate your children. Lester?
All right, Tom Costello, thanks. Up next, Al Roker tracking the newest winter storm threats. Here in Washington, we're set for even more snow as a new storm spans across the mid-Atlantic, already dumping snow in the southeast. Al Roker is watching it. Al, how bad will it be?
Lester, right now we have 78 million people under some sort of winter weather advisory or warning, and we are looking at snow developing now, making its way from Nashville all the way into Pennsylvania. As this system intensifies, it's going to be bringing heavy snow from Virginia to Maine tonight on into the morning. The morning commute will be a real mess. We're talking about I-95, I-90, I-76, 1 to 2 inches of snow per hour, and snowfall anywhere from 8 to 8 inches before it's all over. Lester?
All right, Al, thank you. Hollywood is mourning an icon tonight. Peter Bogdanovich, the director of 70s classics like The Last Picture Show, which earned him 2 Oscar nominations, as well as Paper Moon and What's Up, Doc, died today. Bogdanovich was also an actor appearing in several movies and TV shows, including a recurring role on The Sopranos. He was 82. Up next, how one gesture of humility offered hope of one of America's darkest days. For all the darkness, what happened here also brought out the best in people, including a Democratic congressman who sent a powerful message.
These images are seared in our collective memory. Rioters scaling the walls, breaking through the doors of our democracy, desecrating the people's house. But this image of New Jersey Representative Andy Kim signified at the end of that terrible day, recovery was already beginning.
I had to step over the broken glass to be able to walk into the chamber. It was the most powerful moment of my career.
The son of immigrants came to Washington as an 8-year-old.
What are your memories of the first time you ever walked in the Capitol?
I remember coming into the rotunda for the very first time as a child. I thought it was the biggest room in the entire world.
But on January 6th, a shelter-in-place order went out.
It said to stay away from the Capitol, and that was really what hit home to me, that for several hours on January 6th, the United States government did not have control over the United States Capitol.
Post January 6th, what's it like for you to walk through these corridors?
There's not a day that goes by where I'm here in this building where I don't think about what happened on January 6th. All the scars that this building has endured over the years, and then the new ones that happened a year ago.
Scars that may have begun healing. There's Congressman Kim in that poignant photo, wearing a blue suit on hands and knees, heartbroken, unable to leave a beacon of democracy in ruin.
It really hurt to see this place that I love so much treated with such disrespect.
Happy New Year,
so
Merry
I
Christmas, cousin.
just started cleaning. It was just an instinct that I had, that I physically did not want to exit this room and leave it in the condition that it was in.
With dust covering his suit, he picked up the remnants, historic rooms littered with shards of glass, of water, even body armor left behind by intruders.
Was it an act of cleaning or an act of healing?
We have to recognize that resilience and that recovery comes in many forms, and I did not want to see the sun rise on a broken Capitol building.
In the day of that day, Representative Kim received an eagle, its right wing broken. A reminder, he says, our country too is still broken.
We as a country are even more divided than we were on January 6th. And I find that to be so disappointing.
He does find solace in letters and drawings. You stepped up, and I wanted to let you know it mattered to me. And thank you for being responsible. Amongst a sea of terrible images, that simple act, a congressman sweeping up, a powerful reminder that while the country may bend, it will not break.
Congressman Kim has donated that blue suit to the Smithsonian as part of the artifacts it's keeping from that day. That's Nightly News. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night from Washington. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
Pop quiz. Remember this? Did you know Republicans are already planning to sabotage the next election? Redrawing congressional maps to cut out Democrats. And the only bill that can stop them has to pass now. Do you know what it is?
You're very welcome, Osmo. Very welcome.
Do you remember where you were a year ago when you found out rioters had stormed the Capitol, tried to hunt down the vice president, assaulted police officers? I remember where I was. I bet you do too, at a moment when it seemed like, okay, this historic violence incited by the big lie had to mean it's the beginning of the end of that whole conspiracy theory, right? 1 year later, we know it was only the end of the beginning, as that lie has taken root and spawned new questions about where our democracy is now, how we remember that day, and the fallout, the obvious and the invisible. We've got all the angles covered tonight, starting with how one side of Washington is honoring those who fought back. Plus, in 30 minutes right here, you're going to see it live, a vigil to mark the day with House Speaker Pelosi and others. That's going to happen on this show. We're also going to get the backstory from Leanne Caldwell and Ellison Barber, two of our own who both reported on the attack from the Capitol. They'll tell us how the insurrection has changed how they cover Congress and America's voters. And there's some other news today, too, including down in Texas, where COVID hospitalizations are through the roof because of Omicron, with state leaders now basically begging the federal government for help. Hey, I'm Hallie. And 365 days after those rioters stormed the Capitol building, just steps from where I'm standing right now to try to stop the legitimate election results from being certified for President Biden, some things have changed. A lot of things have not. And the partisan divides that right after the attack, people thought might start to fall away a little, not disappear, but maybe start to crumble, be a little less raw. No, they are on stark display tonight, with only a handful of Republicans showing up in D.C. for the commemorations of the attack. President Biden was there. He was on the Hill today. And without ever saying Donald Trump's name, he pinned responsibility on the former president in some of the toughest language we've ever heard him use about Mr. Trump. Watch.
The former President of the United States of America has created and spread a web of lies about the 2020 election. He's done so because he values power over principle, because he sees his own interest as more important than his country's interest, than America's interest, and because his bruised ego matters more to him than our democracy or our Constitution.
We saw the mob at the doors. As we were exiting the House floor, I saw the glass breaking. I saw the officers staying behind, their guns drawn.
I replay how I made plans to use my gas mask and my cane, newly at my side from a 5-week-old knee replacement surgery, to fight back if attacked.
Suddenly, a Capitol police officer shouted, "Run! Run, 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 run!" He scrambled across the entire length of the gallery, crouching down, ducking down under the railings, terrified by the pounding on the door and the shouting outside the chamber.
That was not just President Biden, but other Democratic members of Congress sharing their, sometimes, as you heard, chilling memories of that day. Many of us also checked in on Capitol Police officers who tried to fight back, who tried to protect the Capitol. People like, you remember Officer Eugene Goodman, who steered the mob away from the doors of the Senate chamber and led members of Congress to safety. I also think that's that shot right there. I know you remember that video from the day. It was everywhere. I also had a chance to speak not too long ago with Officer Harry Dunn, who explained what he's doing now to process the trial. We're going to share more of that conversation in just a minute. But I want to bring in now from the Capitol, Sahil Kapoor and Carol Lee, who's joining us from here in Washington, covering all things White House. Sahil, let me start with you. Listen, here we are. You know, it's evening time in D.C. We have spent the day here in Washington reflecting on and remembering what happened on January 6th. We heard from members of Congress. What is it like where you are, right? Because this is not a time when, you know, Congress is in session. You have many members of the Senate who are gone, who didn't, you know, were not here in Washington today because they were at a funeral to remember the life and the legacy of another one of their colleagues. What's it been like?
Hallie, it's been an overwhelming day for members of Congress here, and talking to many of them, the prevailing sentiments I hear are two in particular, somber and hopefulness. Somber because many of them have vivid memories of that day. They see it as an attack on the American way of life, on American democracy, and many Democrats in particular are clear-eyed about the fact that the events of January 6th may be in the past, but the sentiments that led to them are very much alive in large part because former President Trump has continued his falsehoods and conspiracy theories that were on the minds of the people who violently attacked this place to begin with. There is hopefulness because many lawmakers are choosing to stay optimistic about the fact that the United States can overcome this strain of authoritarianism that's creeping underneath the surface that led to the events of 1 year ago, that the January 6th Select Committee investigating this attack will ultimately come to the truth, that they will put out their reports and inspire Congress to take some action.